Dear viewers, welcome to yet another edition of Expert Speaks. We have done a lot of videos on wills, estate planning, succession planning, how you can make sure that the hard-earned assets of you is easily transferred to your near and dear ones. But questions remain. Questions keep coming to us in the comment section. People pour questions at us and we try to solve this. And one interesting question that was posed to me is wills alone is sufficient to ensure that the succession planning is complete? And that made me thinking. And I'm asking this question to my expert of the week, Mr. Nikhil Varghese, and try to find a logical answer to this question posed by you all. This is NRI Money Clinic for you, and I'm Dr. Chandrakant, but your financial guide for a happy living.
NRI Money Clinic. No hype, just the right advice.
3 years or more. That's how long it can take for your family to recover your assets. This delay in asset recovery means your loved ones won't have access to their inheritance when they need it the most. Create your will today.
Dear viewers, the expert of the week is estate planning specialist, Mr. Nikhil Varghese. He needs no introduction. He has done so many episodes on my channel. A very popular faculty member, a chartered accountant by profession, a man who has dedicated himself to this profession of succession planning. And he is a founder of a startup called Yellow, which is working on different possibilities, different solutions to the problem of succession planning. He has very rich experience of working with the Big Four. He had headed the South India for a wealth management firm on succession planning and estate planning. Welcome to the show, Mr. Nikhil Varghese.
Thank you, Mr. Chandrakant. It's a pleasure to be part of your show. There's always an overwhelming responses that comes from audiences who view each of the episodes that are aired, and it's always an honor to be part of your show and interact with your audience.
Mr. Nikhil, your episodes that you do, this is a subject which is not easily found on the internet. Audience has got so many queries. They pour my WhatsApp with questions, and each question is different, and that makes me think all the time. When it comes to question of succession planning or estate planning, several methods are used. Wills could be one, joint ownership could be one, gift deed is one, trust could be one. One of the viewer of your earlier episode asked me this question: is wills sufficient as an estate planning tool? I have done my wills. There are so many things which are available. Is it enough that I have a will and I can make sure that everything is in order? Now, as a specialist on this subject, what is the answer that you have for this viewer?
No, excellent question, and this is something that everybody should start thinking about, right? One, no questions asked. Will is a no-brainer. Everybody needs to get a will input in place. That's. I don't think we should even debate about it. That's something which should be done as of yesterday. But having said that, will may not be sufficient for all situations. While it's good for most scenarios, there are situations which will require something beyond a will. Now, what are those situations? The situation could be that, let's step back and see what does a will do, right? Will comes into an effect only when one person passes away, which would mean that if I write a will, assets gets transferred to my loved ones only when I'm not around through the wishes that is stated out in the will. But there could be scenarios that you want to address during life itself. What about incapacitation? Incapacitation is something which does not get protected through a will because that's during your life and you could be physically or mentally incapacitated. By law, assets can't be accessed by families because assets are in your name, you can't access the assets, and therefore there's a situation that needs to be addressed because of incapacitation. And that clearly gets done only if you have something more evolved than a will. Now, beyond that, what are the other situations? You could have business assets, you could have business succession that needs to be done, which essentially, what happens today for business families is that if you have an asset and if you write it through a will, the assets get scattered in each one's hands. How do you consolidate assets but family is provided for needs a much more evolved conversation. You could also have situations where you don't want your minor children to have access to the assets when they are young. Even at an age of 18, I'm not sure if they're mature enough to handle few lakhs of rupees, leave alone few crores, right? And how do you ensure that they are provided for during life? At a stage, say, when they're mature enough, as per you, it could be 25, 30, 35 years. At that point in time, you want to have access to these assets is something that we need to look at from a mature structures, could be beyond a will, and that could be addressed through a trust. I'm just giving few examples. There are many more situations where trust comes into the picture, but that's how you look at beyond a will in most scenarios.
Nikhil, I was thinking that a person has a will and he has secured everything, or you have nominated for your assets and you have done everything. Every time I talk to you, you come out with one another problem and make things a little bit more thought-provoking, or make people think, oh, other than this, these are the things which can go wrong. You mentioned two words there, incapacitation, and you also mentioned the word trust. What is this incapacitation and trust? How can these two issues be linked, or in the event of incapacitation, or how the trust structure can help secure the hard-earned assets for the benefit of the loved ones? Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
No, it's a very important question, and let me address the first part to be trust, because that will kind of put a good foundation for why it is important for various scenarios, including incapacitation. So what is a trust? Trust is an arrangement between a person who's creating the trust, called as a settler in legal parlance, and the trustee who is entrusted with the assets to be managed for the benefit of the beneficiaries of for whom the trust is created, and to use the assets in such a fashion that it meets the objectives or wishes of the person who's creating the trust. Now, simple example, I have, say, take an example of a cell phone, right? A trust can be for any asset. It need not be for only financial, real estate, or whatever it is. Okay, let's take an example of a, say, house property. I can transfer one house property to a trust, wherein I'll tell the trust settler that, hey, this property needs to be utilized for my lineal descendants, which would mean my kids and my future generation, wherein it should not be sold for, say, X number of years, and the rental yield from it should provide for my children or grandchildren's educational and lifestyle needs, right? That could be a simple wish, and that becomes a trust, right? It's a structure created to house assets for the benefit of beneficiaries. Now, how does this help in cases of incapacitation, etc.? Now, let's go back to the same situation. Instead of house property, let's say we have financial assets, including bank balance and bank deposits. Now, if I'm incapacitated, if I owned these financial assets in my name, like I said, because I'm legally not able to enter into a contract, I can't write a check, and therefore assets can't be transferred. Which would mean that if I have a medical need or my family has financial needs, and that can't be addressed because assets are in my name. Now, if that same asset is housed in a trust, though during my lifetime, I'm able to fully control it as if I own those assets. If a situation like incapacitation arises, the trust deed can provide a specific language to say that in case of Nikhil's incapacitation, his spouse will take over the charge and run the trust or provide instruction for the utilization of trust assets, specifically to ensure that my medical needs are fully taken care of, that can't be discounted, and along with that, my family's lifestyle needs, kids' education needs, all of it are not at distress. That's a clear language that can be as part of the trust deed, and it can run. In a will, that all of this can't happen, because in a will comes into the effect only on demise. And therefore, this becomes a very, very important tool for addressing situations like incapacitation. And why we are stressing so much, and you caught on this point on incapacitation, so, in the various points that I mentioned, but incapacitation is something people very much ignore, and it can happen to anyone. And I'm sure in your near circle or 1-2 circles ahead, you have seen situations of this, and families go through a lot of distress when this happens. And therefore, it's important to plan. Having said that, I want to make one broad statement, is that trust is not something which needs to be done by everyone. There is certain operational cost with respect to maintenance of trust, and therefore we need to look at cost-benefit analysis of whether trust makes sense or not. But having said that, trust is definitely a more evolved tool than will, but will is something which should never ignore, and that has to be done by everyone.
Nikhil, this is really interesting, and this is a practical problem, and there is a practical solution to it. But not much of that is always discussed. See, there should be education around that. So we are, I would say, getting into a education mode now, making people think. And my viewers, please pour your questions in the comment section below. You might be having a problem, or you are thinking in a different way, or you could be in a different situation. If you have specific situations, or if you have another question in your mind, please do mention that in the comment section. When you speak to us through the comment section, we get the ideas, we'll understand what's happening in your life, or what is that we should produce videos on which can solve your problem. Do not hesitate, leave your questions in the comment section below. Nikhil, these days, one another segment which is very pertinent is the business owners. There was a time where people used to go in search of employment, but today is a time where people have startups. Entrepreneurship is fashion of the day, and that's how an economy or a country will grow. Indian entrepreneurs are known worldwide. There are countless of them in Africa, US, Middle East, India. You go anywhere, this community of business owners is quite large. Now this trust structure, whatever you said, or in the event of incapacitation, children could be small, the business owner could be settled in one country, he may be having business in different places. It gets really complex. Can you talk about a little bit of relevance of this trust from a business owner's perspective? And you are a man who have done all these works for lots of business owners. Can you, for the benefit of my audience, tell how these trust structures can be useful for the business owners?
Great question in terms of, is trust a good structure for business owners? Does it help? I did throw some light in the initial part of the conversation, but good, we are able to speak a little more in detail here. Definitely, yes, for a business owner, trust structure makes a lot of sense for multiple reasons. We'll start talking about it. But having said that, there's something which is very important as a statistic that is always there. One, predominantly all businesses, if you look at across the world, including India, is predominantly family owned and family businesses. And there's also clear statistics that beyond 3 generations, usually family businesses don't continue unless you have put in right practices in place to ensure there is business continuity and consolidation of assets. Now, what does this mean, right? And how does trust play a good role in this situation to help for families to take care of family businesses to continue through generations and provide for the requirements of family needs? Now, what is business continuity? You as a first generation entrepreneur, you would have created a business out of scratch, out of various sufferings and thought processes that you have gone through. And you created a large business, right? And you know exactly how you have gone about. Most scenarios are you're going to be humble about how you've created this business. But when the second generation comes into the picture, they have also seen the struggle that you have gone through, and therefore they kind of relate to what is happening here, and therefore they get the same sentiments. As generation starts coming in, they don't understand. They look at the third generation, they're already born with a silver spoon. How much do they value into the suffering that your parents or grandparents have gone through to create such a large enterprise? That's something which they won't understand unless the ethos of the families are passed on to them. And that's a more conversation within the family to say how we built this business, what was the whole thought process, how we went about, what are the struggles that the families went through to create such a large business, and how do you transfer this further to future generation, right? That is a conversation and the communication that needs to pass on to the family. Does trust help for this? Answer is no, there's more communication. But does trust help from a business continuity standpoint? The answer is yes, because one of the ways where continuity comes into the picture is that if you don't do anything about it, like I said in the beginning, if I'm a first generation entrepreneur, I own 100% of the shares of the company. Say I have 2 kids, the shares are now split 50-50 between 2 kids. Now the third generation, if say each of them have 2 more kids, it's split 25%. Now it's already scattered and they can do what they want with those shares, which would mean that you don't have control over it. Can I have a scenario where assets are still in one structure, where all the 100% is continuing there, but beneficiaries get still that 25% interest or benefits out of the trust, voting continues to be with one single structure. That helps tremendously because now you have to unanimously or as per the conditions, maybe majority, etc. You already put out conditions that will help with respect to which decisions gets taken place of. Control is with one person. Nobody can influence for competition and the rest to purchase these assets without the knowledge of the other family members. Of course, you can have various conversations like family charter, shareholders agreement. All of that can come into the picture. But in my mind, a trust structure providing for these things is much more ironclad. Second is that when you look at trust as a structure, or rather you're running business as business is something that you're undertaking, you're also inviting a good amount of financial exposures. And therefore, asset protection is very important, right? One that needs to be clearly demarcated is that there is financial asset and there is business asset or personal asset and business asset. We know that business assets has its inherent risk. And therefore, it can, at some point in time, also expose your personal assets, which ideal scenario is it should be a kitty for your family's well-being in a rainy day. Now, creating trust structures like trust will help ring fence those personal assets from any potential risk that your businesses pose, be it creditor risk, be it regulatory risk, be it tax risk. That's something which you can ring fence your personal assets from. And that is another reason why for business families, trust structure is important. And the third being a clear succession planning, right? Again, as first generation business, it could be 1 or 2% running the business. It could be brothers or friends starting the business. And therefore, you have clear wavelength in terms of how the business needs to be run. Again, the same example, second generation also understands this. To some extent, they also kind of understand who should take the mantle and run. But as the branches grow, the number of people come in. Everybody can't be a CEO. Everybody can't be a CEO. There can be only 1 or 2 persons who can take these mantle. Now, is it merit based? Is it age based? Or if the families are not even capable of running the business, should professionals come and run this? Who should be taking this conversation, calls and conversation? Is something which can be defined upfront through a structure and say if there is no clear merit, and that could be families needs to go ground up. And not that you instill yourself as a director or a C-suite personnel from day one, but go through the from ground up to look at what is happening at the shop floor to move up the ladder. Of course, you can move up much faster than regular employees as compared to the family, but that helps in understanding whether you have the you're cut out for this particular business, and if not, families should take a very clear judgment to bring in professionals to run the businesses. And that is also a successful way of continuing business, because if you're not capable, you will destroy the business instead of building the business. And that's all these can be clearly defined, controlled and provided for if you have structures like trust that can define all these upfront. And therefore, your family, multi-generation is taken care of and your business provides for your family's needs. I know elaborated quite a bit and we can keep talking about it, but that's the reality, and that's something which I thought should be brought out.
Nikhil, thank you very much. These are very, very interesting perspectives. It's probably easy to start a business, groom it because you have a passion for it, you grow it. But to transfer it across generation, grow it, save it, and make it work even when in your absence or during your incapacitation, God forbid, it requires elaborate and meticulous planning. Thank you very much for highlighting this point, and it's something which is a need of the hour. The amount of planning which goes for running the business, if a fraction of the time is dedicated towards this meticulous planning for continuation of the business, and that would be probably the best thing that you could do. By the way, dear viewers, we have tied up with Yellow, the startup which is a full-fledged succession planning initiative started by Mr. Nikhil Wagis. If you have a need for any aspect of succession planning, be it creation of a will, creation of a trust or other aspects or consultation, you can make best use of services offered by NRI Money Clinic. All that you have to do is send us a WhatsApp message on the number that is shown here, and we'll take it up and we will pass it on to the concerned professionals to take up your case. Needless to say, you get handsome discount when you send us this message and this case is accepted for execution by Team Yellow. Do not hesitate, send that message now if you have an interest on that. Nikhil, thank you very much for this perspective. My one question that is there in my mind is regarding wills. I hear about wills being challenged, people telling that will is fraudulent, will is made under duress, or it can be challenged. Now you spoke about trust. Can the trust be challenged that way?
No, great point, and I should have highlighted this earlier. Through a will, assets gets transferred to beneficiaries, of course, but there is still some bit of time delay because you still need to go to banks, you still need to go to financial institution and sub-registrar's office before the assets gets transferred. But in a trust, this can happen in single day because you don't need to visit any of these authorities because assets are already part of the trust, beneficiaries are already named, and the person is no more, the rest comes anyways have access to these assets as per the wishes laid down. In essence, it's a living will. Trust becomes a living will for assets to be taken care of for the requirements of the families. Now, you did speak about litigation, right? Litigation is something that is more prevalent if I look at it from a will standpoint because it comes into effect post-demise. You can question whether a will is genuine or not because it can be forged. Also, to get into the situations of saying, was it done when the person is of a sound mind? Was it done when the person was coerced to do it or forced to write the will? Right? These are questions or situations where the will can get contested. Of course, you can build robustness, backups, and proofs like video recording, medical certificate, etc., to provide for any such contestment so that family's interest is taken care of. Having said that, in a trust, because the assets are passed on to the trust during your life, you have clearly transferred title of these properties into the trust during life. Now the trust owns these assets. Now the trust deed, which is the Bible for how the asset needs to be utilized, how the asset needs to be taken care of, when can you divest, when can you distribute these assets, all those wishes are already captured. And that becomes the sole and whole document that defines how these assets need to be taken care of. And in all likelihood, a contestment of trust deeds is remote unless a contested property or a tainted property is moved into the trust deed. If it's clean assets moved, clear title moved, you can't contest a trust deed.
Nikhil, thank you very much. I have got hundreds of questions in my mind. I know we are running out of time and this is a never-ending topic. And I'm very sure audience will pour another 100 questions today in the comment section. Let's learn from them what practical issues are coming in. I was doing my part of research before I talked to you. I came across one terminology called testamentary trust or something like that. What is that and what is its relevance? Can you briefly tell me on this?
Sure. No, so very, very, interesting concept, right? So you have an option to create a trust during life, or when you write a will, you can write a will in such a fashion that your will translates to a trust post-demise. If I were to simplify this, what does this mean? Is essentially today, if you write a will, your normal thought process is to say that all my assets goes to my spouse or it goes to my children. Those are your wishes. What you can, in addition, do is that I can say that my assets post my life has to be moved into a trust, and these are the wishes or the parameters through which the trust needs to be created post my life, and assets needs to be utilized for the benefit of my family. Right? In a nutshell, this is something called as a testamentary trust. Testamentary trust is essentially trust coming into life post one's demise through the document called a will. Right? And that is essentially a testamentary trust. Am I a big fan of testamentary trust? Answer is no, because you are laying out certain parameters. You don't know how best these parameters will get implemented. While this concept is there, many have actually written testamentary trust. My strong recommendation always is to create a trust during life. Even if you don't want to move assets, you can write a will to move these assets into the trust, but at least you are rest assured that you know exactly how this trust is created than leaving it to chance.
So Nikhil, after hearing you out, I would say to my audience, now will's creation is a must. It's a basic necessity. But do not rest by just creating a will. Your situation could be different. You could be a business owner, you could be living in 2 different geographies, or you can be as complex as anyone else. Each case is a different thing. If required, and you feel it's a complex case, it absolutely makes sense for you to talk to an inheritance specialist, get their guidance, look at all aspects of different tools which are available for you to do your estate planning, be it nomination, the trust, the wills, ownerships, whatever it is. The best way could be talking to a professional. And if you have an intention, as I said, you can send us a WhatsApp message and we'll take up with Team Yellow how they can help you. Nikhil, thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to converse with you in the forthcoming videos on other aspects of estate planning. Thank you very much for your kindness to spare your time and enlighten my audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chandrakant. It's always been always a pleasure to be part of your show. I would also like to, give my last 2 thoughts in terms of this particular conversation that we've been having for the last few minutes. Again, I'm re-emphasizing this. Usually there's always a confusion that it's either a trust or a will. It's not always the case. No matter what you do from a trust perspective, you always still have certain assets. It could be a personal savings bank account which will continue in your name, which still needs to be passed on, right? Therefore, will is always a very necessity, that something which needs to be created. Trust comes into the picture when your objectives, like we spoke about, incapacitation, business continuity, provide for minor children, some cases like protection, ring fencing of assets from any potential financial exposures, or planning for separations, etc. All of it helps you from a trust perspective. If you were to look at it from that perspective, to create a document which provides more benefits than a will. Having said that, will needs to be created. Trust is a complementary, not an alternative to a will, and both goes hand in hand. And that's my last summary of this about this topic, because this is usually a confusion that every individual has when we have these conversations with them, saying, "Oh, I've done a trust, I've done a will, therefore other is not required." It doesn't work that way. Both needs to be in place. It's either will plus trust or will alone. It's not trust alone. In summary, the whole conversation here, Mr. Chandrakant, again, and always an honor to talk to you. And I'm very sure there's good amount of queries that you want to pour your way with respect to these questions, because this is a burning issue for many, and sometimes you don't think about it. It's time we wake up and start thinking about it.
Dear viewers, hope the video that I have done today helped you to understand finer points of estate planning and what are the things that you need to consider before you choose a particular tool or a set of tools to make sure that your loved ones will get all that you have earned during your lifetime. If it did help you to understand these finer points, do like this video, do share these videos with your near and dear ones. Thank you very much for watching this episode on NRI Money Clinic. I shall be back with you next Tuesday with yet another expert with yet another useful topic. Till then, stay safe.
Press the bell icon for more details and subscribe our channel.